The complete history of opium, from ancient medicine to global wars, empires, and addiction. The flower that changed civilization. Opium comes from a simple flower, the Papaver somniferum, the opium poppy. But this fragile plant has shaped human history more dramatically than almost any other natural substance. It created international conflicts, funded empires, built fortunes, destroyed nations, and continues to drive global drug markets even today. This is the complete history of opium, a story of medicine, empire, war, trade, addiction, and global power. Ancient beginnings, 3400 BCE, Egypt, Sumer, Greece. Opium is one of the oldest known drugs in human history. Sumerians, 3400 BCE, the joy plant. The earliest records call it Hulgil, meaning the plant of joy. It was used for easing pain, treating insomnia, religious rituals. Ancient Egypt opium was traded along the Nile, used by priests and doctors, and documented in the Ebers Papyrus, one of the earliest medical texts. Ancient Greek physicians used opium widely. Most famously, Hippocrates prescribed it for pain and female health disorders. Galen used it for sleep and anesthesia. Opium became a respected medical tool, but it also became a pleasure drug. The Roman Empire opium goes global. As Rome expanded, so did the opium trade. Roman merchants brought opium across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Physicians carried opium in their kit the way doctors carry painkillers today. The Roman Empire helped transform opium into a worldwide commodity, centuries before modern globalization. The Islamic Golden Age, the science of opium, 800 to 1200 CE. During the Islamic Golden Age, medical scholars in Baghdad, Persia, and Cairo advanced the science of opium. Famous physicians like Avicenna, Ibn Sina wrote extensive medical descriptions of opium, noting its analgesic power, addictive potential, use for surgical anesthesia. For centuries, opium remained primarily a medical tool, used carefully, respected deeply. Everything changed with global trade. The rise of global trade, 15th to 17th centuries. As European empires expanded, opium became a major commercial good. The Portuguese, they introduced opium smoking to China in the 1500s. Before this, the Chinese mostly used opium medicinally. The Dutch, they helped spread opium across Southeast Asia. The British East India Company quickly realized that opium could generate massive profits. They began cultivating vast amounts of opium in India, turning it into a cash crop. Britain now controlled production, price, distribution, international routes. This set the stage for the most significant turning point in drug history. The Opium Wars, when drugs created global conflict, 1839 to 1860. This is the dramatic, world-changing part of opium's story. China tries to stop opium. By the 1800s, millions of Chinese citizens were addicted. The Qing government banned opium imports. Britain refuses to stop selling it. Why? Because opium sales balanced Britain's trade deficit with China. Without opium, the British would lose massive amounts of money. The First Opium War, 1839 to 1842, China seized and destroyed British opium. Britain responded with military force. China lost. Consequences: Britain gained Hong Kong. Foreigners received special trading rights. Opium imports resumed. The Second Opium War, 1856 to 1860. When China tried again to resist, British and French forces defeated them a second time. China was forced to legalize opium. This is one of the only times in history a nation went to war to keep selling drugs. Opium shaped geopolitics on a global level. 19th century, the age of morphine and heroin. In 1804, German chemist Friedrich Serturner isolated morphine from opium, the first opioid extracted in pure form. Morphine used widely for pain, essential in wartime medicine. Highly addictive spread rapidly across Europe and America. Doctors believed morphine was safer than raw opium. They were wrong. The American Civil War and soldiers' disease wounded soldiers receiving morphine developed massive addiction rates. Suddenly, addiction became a modern epidemic. Heroin, 1874 to 1898. Bayer Pharmaceutical invented heroin, marketing it as a non-addictive alternative to morphine. It was even sold as a children's cough syrup. Within years, heroin addiction exploded. Opium was no longer ancient medicine. It was becoming a massive global crisis. 20th century, global prohibition and the opium black market governments worldwide began banning opium and its derivatives. The United States, 1914, the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act restricted opiates and cocaine. Geneva Opium Conventions, 1920s to 30s, global restrictions on opium production and trade were established, but prohibition created something even more powerful: the modern drug cartel. The Golden Triangle, Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand became world centers of illicit opium. French Connection, 1930s to 1970s, a major heroin pipeline from Turkey to France to the US Cold War geopolitics CIA-backed groups in Southeast Asia and Afghanistan allegedly used the opium trade for funding. Opium became intertwined with war intelligence operations, organized crime, international finance, Afghanistan, the opium capital of the world. Since the late 20th century, Afghanistan became the largest producer of opium globally. Reasons: poverty, lack of government control. High-profit, strong Taliban taxation system. Opium became Afghanistan's primary economic engine, worth billions annually. When the Taliban controlled the country, they alternated between banning and taxing opium production, depending on political needs. By the 2000s and 2010s, Afghanistan supplied over 80% of the world's opium. The modern opioid crisis, 1990s to 2025. The story takes a shocking twist. Instead of illegal opium, the modern crisis came from legal pharmaceutical companies in the United States. OxyContin. In 1996, Purdue Pharma released OxyContin. It was marketed as safe, non-addictive, and controlled. Millions of prescriptions were written. Millions became addicted. When restrictions tightened, users turned to heroin fentanyl. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid, is 50 times stronger than heroin. Today, fentanyl is the deadliest drug in America. Opium created ancient rituals, global empires, wars, addiction epidemics, modern pharmaceutical crises. The story continues. The legacy of opium changed the world in ways few people understand, built colonial fortunes, triggered global wars, shaped modern medicine, drove geopolitical conflict, created modern narco-trafficking, led to today's deadly synthetic opioid epidemic. Few plants have influenced humanity so deeply.